Hello everyone, Giltar here with part 2 of my review of the 1/8 scale Master Grade Figurerise Son Goku model kit. Now I want to point out a few things before I get into the pros and cons. First of all, I think that there's an interesting point of design in the hip here for the joint because it resembles the high-grade Universal Century Gyan, and that the shoulder here has a piece of plastic to try to minimize the appearance of a gap for the shoulder articulation. And I think the hip here has a similar design. It has a piece of plastic for the joint that moves with it so that when you position it differently, there's not a huge gap showing up in the hip area. Another thing I wanted to point out was that I mentioned that there's 2 points of articulation at the hip. I want to show them to you guys right now. So there's one at the hip and there's one at the pelvis peg. Now this peg can actually move and down slightly. It's a swivel joint. So you can do that. And combining the 2 points of articulation, you can actually get Goku into a really significant split. It's almost a perfect split here, which is quite impressive for the model in my opinion. So, I mean, look at that. That's pretty cool. And another thing is that I did neglect to show the articulation at the waist. In addition to rotation, the waist can actually bend back and forth and then side to side, which is in the range of a normal human type character. I know Goku's not human, he's Saiyajin, but he's got normal range of movement in the waist area at least. So with that being said, I'll move on to the pros and cons. As normal, I'll start off with the cons. I only have 2 to list. The first one being is that the construction of the hand or wrist joint is a little lackluster because the problem is that the peg here is quite slim and small. It tapers off to a point. What it results in is a fairly weak connection for the hands. They're not bad once you connect them and put them in a pose, but once you start moving it around to adjust the position, then it's very easy for the hand or fist accessory to simply slip out. All Bandai had to do was construct a larger peg, or perhaps even use a traditional cylindrical peg design instead of this tapered off one, and much of this problem would have been avoided. And so I do list that as a con because that is the one design flaw in my opinion out of this model kit. Everything else is just fine, and in fact a lot of the design in this model is really exceptional in my opinion. And unfortunately it's because of that one small but avoidable mistake that sticks out very much in my eyes. So I do have to list that as one of the cons. The second con is that it does come short in terms of the accessories department. You have an alternate face, you have a pair of open hands and a pair of fists, and an action stand or action base. And that's fine and dandy, and I really enjoy and appreciate those accessories. However, I would say if there's any one extra accessory that I personally feel that this kit needs, would be a key attack effect part. Blue clear plastic or yellow plastic if you want to do just the normal key blast. But I think a blue effect part or a yellow effect part for a Kamehameha blast would be wonderful. To be honest, I think that is something that a lot of people would expect. Goku here, his trademark signature move is the Kamehameha, and I don't think it's unreasonable to expect some sort of effect part for that for this or for this model kit. I'm not asking for anything extravagant like a huge blue sphere, plastic sphere to represent the Genki Dama, but I do think a Kamehameha effect part would be within reasonable expectations. So those are the 2 cons I have to list. Now I'll go into my pros, which I have several. First of all, I really do appreciate the engineering that's gone into the face designs of this sculpt here, because instead of going with a single molded plastic piece, Bandai has decided to use separate components for the eyes, teeth, and mouth, and eyes in this face. And why that's important is that the owner has the option of removing the eye parts or the mouth parts, paint them separately, and then reattach them, and that makes the job of the painter much easier. And I do appreciate that because, well, first of all, like I said in part 1, it's more convenient for the owner, and secondly, the level of sort of modularity in the parts really adds to the depth of the object. It adds a greater sense of three-dimensionality, that we're not just getting a single hunk of plastic. We actually have a piece of plastic with clearly defined parts in the eyes, teeth, and tongue. And I really do appreciate that design point because it's something that Bandai didn't have to do, but they did, and I think that's a wonderful move by the designers behind this model kit. Another thing I like about the model is just the appearance, the likeness to Goku I think is wonderful. It looks just like the character, though there is a bit of a deviation in that Goku is often drawn by Akira Toriyama in the latter part of the Dragon Ball manga, at least, as a more buff, a more muscular character. I think Bandai did a great move in that they reduced the the physique of Goku to make him still muscular, but also athletic looking. He's not like a muscle-bound Hulk here. And I think that was a great decision because as a drawing or as an animated character, having a well-muscular or well-muscled character is fine. But once we get into the realm of three-dimensional objects, as in action figures or model kits, if he's too buff and too muscular, he can look a little silly. And with Bandai's sort of reining back of that temptation to make the figure a little too accurate to Akira Toriyama's artwork, I think it results in a very pleasing aesthetic, a really good-looking design. Goku looks spot on, and he just doesn't look muscle-bound, and I think that's a good touch. For example, often Goku's arms are really like ripped, and it's like he has grapefruits for biceps. Another thing is that often Akira Toriyama will draw his characters with huge shoulder or trapezius muscles. Here we see that avoided, and I think it makes a more balanced looking human figure or humanistic figure. Another thing I like about the model kit is just the level of detailing in the different parts of the model, from the different components for the legs, the clothing, even the pants here are composed of a lower leg, a knee component, upper leg, and an upper thigh part, and it really makes it a much better looking model kit for both appearance and for functionality in terms of posing. It maintains a good look no matter how you pose the model. Other separate parts like the laces around the boots, the soles of the boots, the belt here, the vest portion of the gi, the wristbands, the sleeve of the gi, the t-shirt sleeve, all of these are separate components, and like the face accessory designs with multiple parts, the levels of different pieces of plastic that you build up to make this model really gives it a more substantial feel and look. It's just a more, I guess, just a better looking and feeling model kit in my opinion. And I think it's just a really great touch by Bandai. They didn't have to do it, but I think it's a really great move by the designers. Another thing about the design is just simply the solid nature of the design. Every part is very strong and tight and secure, with the exception of the wrists. And when you pick it up, it's a very hefty figure. It doesn't feel delicate or dainty or fragile. There's no worry on my part for seeing this model kit get posed in different ways on a fairly regular basis. I mean, even the joints here, the way that there are very few pure polycap joints. Many of the joints are in fact a combination of plastic joint with a polycap inner ring, kind of like a gasket almost, and that combines great attributes of the resistance of a polycap joint upon a plastic peg, so you have really tight joints, and then also you have the durability from the plastic joint that reinforces the polycap. I think it's a really great design move. Another thing about the articulation is that we have many points of articulation, which really adds to the posability and functionality of the model. A few parts do go beyond sort of normal ranges of movement, but that's not a big deal. But for the most part, like at the waist and at the knees and legs, we don't have outrageous flexibility, and I think that's a really great touch by Bandai, because there's always the temptation to make something extremely posable where you can wrap it up into like a little ball pretzel type of deal, but we don't get that here, and I think that kind of restraint on the side of the designers is a good thing. I also really like this little gimmick of the bending bicep or the flexing bicep here. I think it's just a really nice touch, and I really enjoy that part of the model kit. I think it's a really in a way, it's kind of a more subtle gimmick, but I think it has it comes out to a great effect. So ultimately, I definitely recommend the Son Goku model kit. I mean, the combination of all the features in this model, all the great design points and aesthetics, really add up to a really, I think, exceptional figure. It has a deceptively well-engineered design behind it, because you can't see a lot of the engineering behind the model when it's assembled. Unlike a Gundam model kit, where you can, obviously because it's a mechanical design, a lot of people will assume it has a lot of really, great engineering behind it, which it does. But at the same time, the Goku model kit, during the assembly process, I have to say, this was the most enjoyable assembly I've experienced so far. And I have no hesitation to buy the Super Saiyan version of Goku that's coming out in a few months, because I can't wait to put another model kit in the Figurerise line together. And also, actually, now that I have the Gundam beside it, another benefit of this model is that it's just a substantial size to it, a great stature, and for people who appreciate great physical presence in their displays for their models, Goku's the way to go. He's just a big model kit. So again, I really do recommend this model wholeheartedly. I say if you're a fan of Dragon Ball, buy this. It's great. And even if you're not a fan of model kits, this is easy to put together, and the resulting model is very solid and stable. Before I let you guys go, I do want to mention again, Yummy Pixels and Dragon Ball Toys. Two great channels for Dragon Ball fans. Check them out, please. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this review and got something out of it. And I'll see you guys next time at my next video.